Hello, shall we start my lecture? Today, I will explain the efforts for continuity of operation plan of local governments in Japan. Continuity of operation plan is called COOP or COOP plan. At first, I will introduce myself. I studied architecture and city planning at university. The Great Hanshin earthquake occurred in 1995, and it became a trigger for me to begin research on disaster management and recovery. I worked at a private consulting company, DRI, Kobe University, and University of Hyogo. One of my specialties is disaster response and crisis management of the national government and local government, such as COOP plan. Next, I would like to explain a general overview of governmental disaster management system in Japan against natural disasters. So, Japanese governmental system has three layers: a national government and two layers of local governments. There are 47 prefectures in Japan that are regional governments. In addition, there are 1,741 municipalities in Japan that provide various services to residents. The municipalities are called cities, towns, villages in descending order of size. Then I'll explain how do these three layers of government work at a disaster. When disaster occurs and residents are affected, the primary responsibility of rescue and support for residents is the work of municipalities that are closest to the resident. Under the Disaster Countermeasure Basic Act in Japan, not only municipalities, but also prefectures are responsible for emergency measures for residents. If the scale of disaster is too large for municipalities, the prefecture provides support to the municipalities. If the support provided by the prefecture is not sufficient, the national government will provide support to the prefectures and municipalities. Sometimes the prefectures or the national government will set up on-site emergency headquarters in the affected local governmental office. In addition, local governments and NPOs outside the disaster area will provide support to the affected local government. And after the Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995, various specialized teams were established to provide on-site support for affected local governments. And this slide shows the name of typical specialized support teams. You can see these teams in the field of medical, welfare, or civil engineering, like that. This slide shows the overall pictures of local government plans related to disaster management. The vertical axis shows more comprehensive plans as it goes up, and more specific plans as it goes down. The horizontal axis shows the timeline. Regarding colors, blue represents pre-disaster preparedness and mitigation plans, and yellow represents response plans, and red represents recovery plans. In addition, plans with red words those that have a legal basis. Every local government in Japan must make local disaster management plans. The local disaster management plans are comprehensive plan covering from pre-disaster countermeasure, post-disaster response, and long-term recovery. However, it focuses mainly post-disaster response. Therefore, to complement the missing measures, local government make recovery plans after disaster and regional resilience plans for pre-disaster countermeasures. The COOP plan, the subject of today's lecture, is positioned as a plan to supplement the local disaster management plan. In fact, local disaster management plans are not sufficient for disaster response. So, in addition to the COOP plan, local governments also tend to establish emergency response manuals for each department and begin to make preparation plan for receiving support. Next, I'll explain the problems of local disaster management plan. First of all, the local disaster management plans do not consider that the local governments would be damaged by disasters. Actually, in the case of disasters, employees, buildings, and facilities would be damaged and unavailable for use. The plans are based on the assumption that operations could be carried out under usual situation. During actual disasters, local governments could not conduct the response operation of the local disaster management plans because resource management does not work. In addition, the local disaster management plans does not define the priorities of operations. As a result, some important tasks were not handled, while other less urgent tasks got done. To solve these problems, COOP plans were created. Then, I'll explain about disaster response system of local government and its challenges. This slide shows the main operations that municipalities should carry out immediately after disaster. First, a disaster management headquarters would be established. Next, if the disaster is considered large in scale, the local government will immediately request assistance to the national government or other local government. At the same time, if there is a risk of tsunami or flooding, the local government will alert residents to ensure their safety. After that, rescue operations or livelihood support for the affected resident will be carried out. And local government will collect and organize information on the affected areas necessary for these operations and establish a response strategy as a local government. Then, local government sent out messages to disaster survivors through the mass media or SNS. Here is an organizational chart of local government disaster management headquarters. So because disaster response operations are very different from the normal operations of a local government, the local government will change its organizational structure to perform response operations. This organizational structure specialized for disaster response is called the Disaster Management Headquarters. In Japanese, 災害対策本部. And in English, it also called emergency headquarters or emergency office or emergency operations center. The head of the disaster management headquarters is governor or mayor. And the disaster management department support the head, and each department carries out its specific roles. And a meeting called disaster management headquarters meeting or executive meeting for disaster management is held regularly to share and coordinate the efforts of each department. The meeting also sets the response policy of the local government. This photo is a disaster management headquarters of Niigata Prefecture at the Niigata Chuetsu earthquake in 2004. It was held in a large conference room. This photo is a disaster management headquarters of Ishikawa Prefecture at the Noto Hanto earthquake in 2007. Ishikawa Prefecture prepared the special conference room for the executive meeting for disaster management before the earthquake. Next, I would like to explain what problems local governments had in responding to disaster in Japan. First issue is whether government buildings are available at a disaster. In major disasters, government office buildings are often damaged and cannot be used immediately after the disaster. In such cases, the government building functions were relocated to another building or a temporary building. In addition, telephones, other communication equipment, or emergency power generators may be unavailable sometimes. So you can see, this table shows the number of municipalities that were relocated as a result of the earthquake and tsunami damage in the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011. There were 237 municipalities was observed in the 6 prefectures, where seismic intensity in Japan was 6 or higher. So, and more than 10% of these 28 municipalities relocated their governmental functions. These numbers exclude cases of relocation due to the nuclear power plant accident in Fukushima Prefecture. Such relocation is not rare. Local government should prepare for the headquarters relocation before a disaster. This is a photo of the Fukushima Prefecture government's disaster management headquarters in the Great East Japan earthquake. The prefecture government building was unavailable due to the damage by the earthquake. Therefore, the disaster management headquarters was set up in a conference room of the other public building, which was located next to the prefectural government building. This is Minami Sanrik Town, Miyagi Prefecture. The tsunami reached the roof level of the three-story governmental building and caused extensive damage. A temporary prefabricated building was built on a tennis court on high ground. This temporary buildings became a headquarters for disaster response. This photo is Wataricho, Miyagi Prefecture. The tsunami did not reach the town office, but old town office building was damaged by the earthquake. Temporary fabricated building was set up as well as Minami Sanriku town. This photo is a case of Kumamoto earthquake in 2016. Several municipalities also suffered from damage to their government buildings and had to relocate. This is a town office of Mashiki Town. The town hall had been reinforced to resist earthquakes, but the interior of the building was severely damaged and should relocate to these facilities. This was the health and welfare center of the town. And this is a view of the relocated disaster management headquarters of Mashiki Town. This photo is the disaster management headquarters of Kawaguchi Town, just after the Niigata Chubetsu earthquake in 2004. When government buildings are unavailable, as in this photo, it is common to operate in such outdoor tents. These circumstances are not good for employees to demonstrate their abilities. The next issue is if the top officials, the governor or a mayor, can come to work at a disaster. This is an example of the Ashia city in the Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake in 1995. A female mayor of Ashia city arrived late at City Hall because her family was seriously injured. However, the city could respond to affected situation well because the deputy mayor immediately came to work at City Hall and became a leader instead of the mayor. Even in the absence of the mayor, it is important to prepare a personnel who can take mayor's place. In addition, local government officers also need to ensure safety of their family and their home. Next is working environment for staff. In order for employees to fully demonstrate their abilities, it is very important to organize a good working environment. However, local disaster management plans do not consider very much about the improvement of the working environment for the employees. The first thing to consider is to ensure the safety of employees. In the Great East Japan earthquake, many local government employees lost their lives because governmental buildings were damaged by the tsunami. Municipalities did not prepare for the safety of staffs. Next is a lifeline. This is a traditional Japanese style toilet at the Great East Japan earthquake. If the water supply is cut off, the toilet would look like this. In addition, there was a shortage of food for staff members. Next, at the time of major disaster, not only local government buildings, but also other critical facilities are damaged, including firefighting stations, hospitals, welfare facilities, and so on. This is the Minami Sanrik Town Hospital after the Great East Japan earthquake. The tsunami reached the third floor level of the hospital, which made the hospital unavailable, and many hospitalized patients died. After the disaster, there were no medical facilities in the area, and residents were forced to live in a very inconvenient situation. On the other hand, this is Onagawa Town, next to Minami Sanrik Town. The hospital of Onagawa was built on high ground before the disaster, so it was not damaged by the tsunami. After the Great East Japan earthquake, gas stations ran out of gasoline, and local government vehicles were unable to move due to lack of gasoline. So many cars were waiting for gas station. And this photo shows gasoline was stolen from damaged cars. I took this photo just after the Great East Japan earthquake in Miyagi Prefecture. The next, it is also important to effectively cooperation with the support from other local governments and organizations. In some cases, volunteers and NPOs or private companies supported the operation. This is a warehouse that was operated by local government officials during the Great East Japan earthquake. This photo is also the same situation. Basically, the workers were transporting goods by themselves. On the other hand, in the case that a private transporter operated the warehouse. The transporter company used large carts with tires or forklift, and they can efficiently manage these warehouses. Then I'll talk about COOP plans from here. This slide shows the relationship among plans. First, local disaster management plan defines what should be done, and the person or department in charge should understand their roles and responsibilities on the local disaster management plan. In addition, detailed manuals define how should the operations be done. If a local disaster management plan and manuals are like the roof of buildings, the pillars which supporting the roof are resource management. Two plans for resource management. One is the COOP plan, and the other is preparation plan for receiving support. These two plans are set, and either one alone will not work. Then I will explain how COOP plan became popular in Japan. In Japan, business continuity plans, BCP, for private companies were introduced from the United States after the 9/11 terror attacks in 2001. The Cabinet Office of Japan made BCP guideline for private companies in 2005. Next, the national guideline of COOP plan for the national government was established in 2007. This plan guideline was made in reference of the BCP guideline for private companies. So, and so Tokyo, the capital of Japan, has the highest risk of natural disasters in the world. And so the national government made the guideline for the national government at first. Next, in 2008, some local governments began to make COOP plans based on the national COOP plan guideline for the national government. Then, and in 2010, the first COOP plan guideline for local governments was established. And in 2011, the Great East Japan earthquake occurred. And it was a major trigger for the spread of COOP plans in Japan. Municipalities severely damaged by the tsunami did not work sufficiently, and support for survivors were delayed. This became a big trigger for growing awareness of the needs for COOP plans. So, what is the definition of a COOP plan of local government? According to the guideline, it is written as follows. A plan that specifies the priority of initial response operation under damaged condition with insufficient resources such as human resources, facilities, and information. The plan also defines the organization structure, operation procedure, and resource logistics to continue or recover important operation or business at the time of serious disasters. And this slide shows the purpose of COOP plan. Compared to usual level, the amount of operation just after a disaster will be dropped significantly due to the damage. And without any countermeasures, the amount of drop will be large and recovery will be slow, as shown in the red dotted line. After recovery, more works need to be carried out than before the disaster. This is because new tasks will arise after the disaster, such as shelter management and damage survey, and so on. The COOP plan and the preparation plan for receiving support aim to achieve this blue line. First, the amount of drop just after disaster will be reduced with countermeasures such as emergency power generator equipment or like that. In addition, the speed of recovery will be accelerated by preparing alternative locations or conducting disaster response drills or like that. Furthermore, by receiving support from outside, local government will be able to conduct more operations than before the disaster. This is mainly role of preparation plan for receiving support in Japan. By following this blue line, local government can provide support to survivors more quickly and effectively. Next, I'll explain the reversal of precondition and response according to phase. It is a characteristic of governmental COOP plans. During the initial phase, response resources are damaged by disaster. Local governments have to prioritize and focus their tasks according to their available resources. However, local government can postpone response operations, but not cancel. A few days after disaster, government organization must acquire resources from other organizations. For example, suppose there are 1,000 evacuees. If just after disaster, there is insufficient food, such as 500 for 500 evacuees, then it is possible to prioritize the delivery of food, like only to children and the elderly, and leave the healthy evacuees for later. However, after three days to a week, the local government must do all necessary work. If there are 1,000 evacuees, local governments must collect food for 1,000 people and distribute it to all evacuees. For this reason, it is important for the local government to gather and accept a variety of resources and support from outside. And this is why resource management of local government is a set of both a COOP plan and preparation plan for receiving support. This slide shows the 6 essential principles of COOP plan from local government's COOP guidelines. So Japanese COOP plan guidelines for local government indicated this 6 principle. How to come to work at City Hall and orders of succession, especially for mayors and executives. And preparation of alternative operation center if a City Hall get damaged. Next, preparedness of emergency electric power generator, stockpile of water and food, and like that. And next, preparedness of multi-communication tool, such as phones and satellite radio or satellite phone, or so SNS, or like that. Next, important data should be backed up. Next, setting priority of important operations. For example, so life safety and incident stabilization are high priorities. Sorry, and so the guidelines of Japan state that any local government, no matter how small, should prepare for these 6 principles. This is because smaller local governments are in a more difficult situation at a disaster. Because small local governments have fewer executive staff and are less prepared for disaster situation. Therefore, COOP plan is more important for smaller local governments. And this slide shows a standard process for making a COOP plan. First, before making the plan, person in charge should explain significance of COOP plan to the head of organization, the governor or the mayor, and obtain his or her approval. All departments should be involved in this process, not just the disaster management department. Therefore, in order to make COOP plan, it is essential to have the approval of the governor or mayor and the cooperation of executives from all departments. Next, briefing meeting should be held with representatives from all departments. At the meeting, participants will be briefed on what the local government and its employee will be at a disaster, why a COOP plan is necessary, and why all departments need to be involved. Then, a project team will be organized to make COOP plan with representatives from all departments. The mayor or deputy mayor should be chairperson of the project team because mayor or deputy mayor have the authority to give instructions to all departments. Otherwise, disaster management department will not be able to control other department. Disaster management department does not have strong authorities as well as deputy mayor or mayor. Then the first process of making COOP plan begins with a consideration of the priority of response operations. Whether it is an earthquake, a flood, or an infectious disease, the most part of high priority operations will be the same, except for the damage or response operation specific to particular disasters. The next step is assessment of response resources of the local government. Major resources are human resources, buildings and equipment, information, and financial resources. The municipality conducts surveys to determine which of these resources can be available in the case of a disaster, and which can be in short supply at the time. Then, based on current resources, an impact analysis for response operations should be conducted. If the impact would be so big that local government could not continue essential operation, the local government should discuss countermeasures. The COOP plan includes the pre-disaster measures, the post-disaster procedure, and the preparation of response and recovery. Okay. Next, in COOP plan, it is important not only to make a plan, but also to use a plan for COOP management of the organization. Human Resource Department and Facility Management Department should lead the continuity of operation process. These two departments have strong authorities of resource management. The process of making a COOP plan is good opportunity to raise disaster awareness and to improve disaster response capacities of full local government. After the COOP plan is published, local government manages its progress and updates the plan periodically. COOP efforts should be improved little by little each year. So it is important to define the department and person in charge of managing PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, action cycle of COOP plan. Every year, the department in charge promotes and checks preparedness countermeasures, including training and education, stockpiling of resources, and so on. If drills or exercise would be conducted, lessons will be fed into the COOP plan. In addition, lessons from the year's disasters also will be reflected to the COOP plan. Furthermore, once each year, the progress of the COOP plan should be discussed at the executive meeting, and the COOP plan should be updated every year. And last, this slide is today's summary. Continuity of operation is an essential issue for all departments of local government to supplement local disaster management plan in Japan. And head, so executives and general affairs department, including facility management and human resource management, should have responsibility for COOP process, as well as disaster management department. Head, governor, and mayor should understand COOP idea as an important public resource management. And COOP planning process is a good training of disaster response for staff members of local government. And goal of COOP is not making a plan, but making good management system for disaster response and recovery. Okay. This is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.